manager of the Chicago Police Force. What I want to tell you all today is you don't have to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. You can be in the right place at the right time and still suffer injustice. Yes, sir. Parents told them that they wanted to hold me for a few minutes. But those few minutes turned into a few days, and a few days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, and eventually turned into 30 years.
I'm Steve Drizzen from the Northwestern University School of Law's Center on Wrongful Convictions. Johnny's case was somewhat of an infamous case. It was a case involving a 14-year-old boy who was convicted of a double murder in Peoria. And there were a number of legal opinions that were generated from Johnny's case that I had read over the years. I was stunned by a number of things. First of all was the lack of any real hard evidence against Johnny. Lack of any physical evidence, lack of any evidence that really corroborated statements that Johnny had given, just how thin this case was, and how the jury had convicted him on the basis of so little evidence.
Step by step, evidence by evidence, piece by piece, he was convicted in this case on his own words, on the physical evidence, and on the circumstances of this case. And court after court has said so. This case is a collection of evidence, some of it physical, some of it verbal, some of it circumstantial. The physical evidence, the disarray of the house, the dispute in food prepared in the kitchen, the long belated argument over a blood spot on some pants found at the defendant's home, a knife with blood found at the defendant's home, a witness who claimed that shortly after the murders, a knife fell from Johnnie Savory's pocket.
I think it's a fabrication. I think that they were desperate to gain a conviction, and they manipulated the evidence to make it seem like Johnny was guilty, when in fact there is no evidence of his guilt.
Here's the reality of the supposed knowledge of the crime scene. Alright, since the beginning of the investigation, Johnny unequivocally stated that he had gone to the home of the victims the night before the murder occurred to hang out with his best friend, James Robinson. When he told investigators that they had eaten corn and hot dogs and then rearranged the living room to practice karate. Now, because the home was still found in the same arrangement that Johnny described, and because the coroner found corn in the stomach of both the victims, the officers simply assumed that Johnny must have lied about the time when he came to their home. They hypothesized that instead of coming the night before, he must have simply arrived the morning of. And in this way, they were able to say that the information he gave them was knowledge that only the true perpetrator of the crime would know. First of all, the pants in question belonged to Johnnie Savory's father. Now, at the time, Johnnie Savory's father was about 5'10" and weighed approximately 250 pounds. Johnnie Savory at the time was 14 years old, was about 5'2" and weighed only 110 pounds. So, I mean, the idea that he could even fit into these pants is ludicrous. But what is even more astonishing is that the blood type found on the pants was type A negative, which was actually the same blood type as Johnny's father. The blood type of the victim was A positive. Now, the most shocking part is that when the prosecution presented this evidence at trial, they stated that the blood type found on the pants and the blood type of the victim were both type A. The blood spots on the knife were so minute that testing couldn't even be performed. Moreover, there was a documented explanation as to why there had been blood spots on the knife. Johnny's father had sustained a deep leg injury while he was at work. Coincidentally, while he sustained this leg injury, he was wearing the same pants that Johnny allegedly wore to the crime scene, which is the explanation for why there was blood on the pants in the first place. At trial, Johnny's father stated that he used this knife to cut the stitches that were used to sew together the leg wound. And finally, another important thing to remember is that the blade of this pocket knife was only 3 inches long. And that's important because the coroner's report distinctly states that there were stab wounds found in one of the victims that were more than 4 inches deep.
These witnesses surfaced at Johnny's second trial. Their testimony was viewed as incredible and unreliable by prosecutors in the first trial. But in order to convict Johnny in his second trial, they brought these victims, these witnesses, into court and used their testimony to convict Johnny. And 2 of the 3 of these witnesses have since recanted their testimony.
Johnny has had the strength of character, the fortitude, if you will, the unmitigated gall to go after and round up the rest of the innocent persons that have felt hopeless and voiceless and speechless. Johnny is a living testament and a walking hope. And he's brought many of those persons around that felt dejected, rejected, and had a sense of hopelessness. He's given them hope.
Johnny has become one of the strongest advocates for the wrongfully convicted in the United States.
He's been a champion for truth and integrity and justice, and so he's revitalized the hearts and souls of so many that have given up. So for that, I'm truly appreciative, respectful, and look up to him.
And I hate to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I don't know what it's like to feel like a victim. I'm not a victim. So please don't look at me and feel sorry for me. I was a warrior and a survivor, able to overcome any situation given to me because the grace of God takes care of all that.
The most important pieces of evidence that need to be tested were never the subject of any motions for DNA testing before, and they include hairs that were found underneath the fingernails of both James Robinson and Connie Cooper. Johnny has a clemency petition that's been pending before the governor for years now. It's pending before Governor Blagojevich for years. He did not act on it. Now it's the province of Governor Quinn. And before he rules on that petition, he should order this testing, because the results of this testing could enable him to do what needs to be done in this case, what must be done in this case, which is to pardon Johnnie Lee Savory on grounds that he is innocent